Welcome back to The Verdict. Our coverage of the elections, the activities before the elections continues. And Jide, I was asking you to just give us an idea of what might happen on the day. Now, this viewer is giving you this question. It says, yes, this vote will be decided mostly by those who voted in 2015, but a majority of those old voters now have a new change of heart. So I do not believe that the outcome will come out of it. But you answer that. But my question to you is, if after the number of people who register, when you look at the number of people who come out, it goes by half. Now with this PVC collection problem, is it going to be another half? So how many people do you really think we will see on that day?
So there are three ways we could look at this. We could look at this from the perspective of the past, the current, and the future. So let's look at it from the past. And by the past, we should benchmark what will happen on Saturday with Nigeria's best ever electoral performance. Now, what year was that? 1983, when out of 40 million eligible Nigerian voters, and by eligible Nigerian voters, I'm talking about Nigerians that are above the age of 18. Out of 40 million eligible Nigerian voters in 1983, we had 25 million come out to vote. An electoral participation of 62%. Now, compare that to what happened in 2015. Out of 93 million eligible voters, Ladi, less than 30 million came out to vote. Electoral participation of only half of what it was in 1983. So if we look at the trends, especially from 2003, we see a decline in eligible voter participation.
And why is that?
Again, go back to the research from Delia that was conducted last year. They had asked Nigerians, do you think the government makes decisions in your interest? Do you think the government makes decisions in your interest? And based on their research, 68% of Nigerians said rarely or never. And so the perception of government, the perception of governance, and of course, we can't take out, where's your phone? That, social media. So we also see that ever since the introduction of GSM and a lot of more Nigerians have access to the internet, they feel a bit more comfortable to sit at home. So it's a combination of perception of poor governance, government, and social media. But more importantly, Ijoma, there are only 8 states compared to 2015 where voter registration has grown by over 500,000. Only 8 states. And those 8 states will give us an insight into what perhaps could happen on Saturday. Well,
are those the states that we're calling swing states at this point, or flash spots?
No, those are not the swing states.
Okay,
just hold on, hold your fire.
Because I was beginning to wonder.
Hold your fire. No, this 8 states, if you look at their growth in numbers, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Rivers, Delta, Abia, Enugu, and Kaduna, those are the 8 states where voter registration has increased by over 500,000. Why the politicians are happy is if you look at those 8 states, 4 out of those states are APC, 4 out of those states are PDP. But however, 7 out of those 8 states are in the south. And perhaps, finally, tomorrow morning, there's something I will also discuss. The first is the 10 states Muhammadu Buhari always wins. Then we'll also look at the 15 states he has never, ever won. And then we'll look at what you just talked about, our 11 swing states.
Let me take you up on something, Jide, and social media is also taking us up on that we're presenting it, or you are presenting it as though it's between the current president and the former vice president, and that there are other parties and other candidates who, might be trying to battle for those battleground states. And you've not talked about that. So
let me share a secret with you. What you are asking is, what is the chance of a third force? And here is the fact. Since we've started this presidential process, the best turnout for a third candidate was in 1983. Nnamdi Azikiwe scored 13% of the votes, Ladi, only 13%. However, since we've started this journey into the Fourth Republic, since 1999, the best performance from a third candidate was Atiku Abubakar, and that was in 2007. And so the evidence does show that Nigerians prefer to either vote one party or a second party. Again, the best performance from a third candidate, 1983, 13% of the popular votes, and that was Nnamdi Azikiwe. And in the Fourth Republic, the best performance was 7% of the popular votes in 2007. And so it is quite easy to conclude or to infer that what will happen in Saturday's election would really be a miracle for a third candidate to even score better than what Nnamdi Azikiwe scored in 1983.
All right. Well, again, these are numbers, these are projections, perceptions.
Exactly.
I mean, things on the day itself, a lot of other things could happen that could completely change. One of our guests mentioned in the course of today's discussion that people woke up or people went to bed believing that the next morning they were going to prepare to attend Hillary Clinton's inauguration in January, and then they found out that Donald Trump was president.
And I remember you saying, this is not Trump.
Yes, I said so. I said, well, we haven't seen quite clear evidence of Trump in this our own process. But let me come to you, Cynthia. Cynthia Mbamalu, I saw your face in the course of Jide's answer. I don't know whether you were saying yes or no, but I just saw that your face was a bit quizzical. Maybe you had a question. But I have a question for you. With everything you've heard, all the stats you've heard from Jide, from Biodun there, the issue of the third-party candidate, the issue of the role that the young voters could possibly play in all of this, and what Jide has said about the fact that, essentially, those who voted in 2015 are going to form anything like 80% of those who are going to vote this time around. So maybe we are exaggerating a little the impact of this new voting population. What do you make of that, given the fact that earlier you had talked about this mass sensitization of this particular crop of people?
But I think for every elections, we cannot isolate the contextual, the political context. And the beauty of data is data tells us what to look out for, but data cannot make sense if we do not consider the context. So I always have query when we make comparisons of, let's say, for instance, how many people knew the candidates for contesting elections in 1979, and how many do that this time around. Now, let us also look at the context that once upon a time, the context was between political parties. So parties were formed on regional lines, and they were more popular than even candidates. However, what we have this time around that our candidates are becoming more popular than parties. So you may have voters voting for Party A at presidential level, Party B for the National Assembly, Party C at even state level and governorship level. So the dynamics are political dynamics are quite different. Beyond that, if you look at the level of the interest in registration, let us remember that 2015 register was also a continuation from 2011 register. It wasn't a totally new register. So there was an addition in 2015, and now we have an addition in 2019. Now, what is different? What is changing the context? This time around, we just looking at the number of candidates alone. This is the largest election with the largest number of candidates. Just 1,558 seats to be contested in these elections, and we have over 23,000 candidates contesting for this seat. Beyond the numbers of candidates alone, look at the level of discourse. This is the first time we're having this level of political debate, I would put it out there, than we've had before. Now, this doesn't mean automatically the numbers of voters there would be a tilt or a magical change. However, what we should be looking out for is the level of discomfort and agitation within the system. We have different security challenges than we had in 2015. Different context. There are more people asking questions. Even the zones that usually should be the swing zones, there will be a change in states that would even be determining the votes this time around. So there's a difference. So beyond the number of registered voters, beyond what the data is showing, beyond how many, beyond the findings of who voted in 2015, there are chances that even the votes for 2015 may be determined differently in 2019. And it's not just about those that have been registered in the data, in the register of voters alone, but it's also looking at what is driving the discourse this time around. I'm going to put you on pause.
I'm going to put you on pause again, Cynthia, because we're now running out of time for the program. And I'm going to have to ask Abiodun Ajijola, who is also sitting there with you, and he's another numbers person. And I want you to react to the issues that have come up as a result of the figures that we are now talking about. And Cynthia has just mentioned the fact that, yes, figures can show a trend, they can show a pattern, but it doesn't situate it within a context. And that the context always change depending on what we're talking about. What's your take on that?
Well, what I will say is that you know, voters are unique, right? And there is you could go to great forensic extent to determine those who voted in 2015 vis-a-vis those who will vote now. For the fact that somebody voted in 2015 does not mean he is going to vote now. So if a register has increased by 20%, it also does not mean that the 20% are all going to vote, or it is the existing ones that will vote. It is possible, for example, that a register increases by 200,000 and the 200,000 that have increased are maybe very, very passionate and energetic, whereas the 800,000 you had in the past, maybe only 500,000 of them choose to participate. So it is not possible to say that just because there is an increase in the register, that is